Thank you very much, colleagues. We have a Masego problem here, but SG will answer those questions. Just to say that structures of the ANC have meetings every day. They don't ask for Luthuli House before they convene an RC meeting. And surely the SG wouldn't know what goes into an RC meeting in eThekwini or in Alfred Nzo or in Mupane. It's unfair to ask of him that he should know what is happening in Johannesburg. They might be here across the street, but it doesn't mean they send us their agenda. Because you think that there's a hot issue on the agenda does not mean it's there. The agenda does not mean it's there. If there's anything that they want to discuss with the head office, they will do so after their meeting. So the SG can't answer what is in an agenda of any PEC, REC, or PEC of the ANC. He knows what is in the agenda of Luthuli because he convenes those. Unless the REC meeting was convened by the Secretary General. If the SG says an REC must sit and discuss 1, 2, 3, then he would know what's on the agenda. I'm raising this so that really we disabuse ourselves of having this same conversation every presser about what's happening in a specific region. But the SG will answer the rest of the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Zuko. Maybe because media, we don't stay with them. We must allow them to ask anything they like. Anything they like. Because we invite them to these press conferences. It's up to us how we respond to them. Whether we respond by educating them how the ANC works. Maybe they might not be aware of certain things. After all, it's our job to do that, to bring to their attention certain things that they are not aware of, either in live press conferences or beyond. Because we invite them to inform society and they duly respond and they come to the press conferences. So I've seen many people get irritated by questions. Some questions do irritate, but that person who comes to the press conference does not have an agreement with you. Probably the editor would have told him, ask the following questions. And they are not on the statement. So Matata Tsedu used to educate us on the other side. He was an editor, and as the Youth League, we're on the other side, and we're not communicators. And we got so irritated with the media and become, guns blazing. And then he says, no, you don't have to do that because you invite the media. And if the media comes to your platforms, just learn to cool down and answer them. If you can't, you are free in terms of freedom of the press that I can't comment on that. But thank you very much, Zuko, for that clarity that you have made. I will also emphasize on that point. But I thought that is important in terms of defining our relationship with the media and what we come across in these press conferences. Mtunzi, thank you for the questions. Violent crimes, we seem to be negotiating with criminals. We must not. We need a tough stance against violent crimes, but we need also a strategic thinking at the helm of the police force. The aim of the police is to arrest and bring criminals to book, but within the framework of the law. But when police are confronting dangerous criminals, heavily armed with AK-47, with weapons, with military weapons, how do police respond to that in self-defense? And I think the police should respond appropriately to those criminals who are gun-toting and at the same time showing no mercy to civilian life in the country. The aim of the police is to protect civilians and all of that. So criminals cannot do as they wish. So there is no law that says shoot to kill. Police don't even espouse that when they go on their task of fighting crime. They just get to be confronted by dangerous criminals who open fire on police. And I've seen that in the police most of the time. And police are subjected to checks and balances in terms of our constitution. There is IPIT and that check on the police, and most of the time police have been found not to be guilty. Because these criminals, there's a lot of guns in our society, a lot of guns. Everybody has got guns, AK-47, they shoot at random. And they shoot the police. Criminals don't surrender, they shoot. And the police respond. And we must be on the side of the police against dangerous criminals as society. We must form partnership with the police. And the minister must know that he's got our support as society, as the ANC. And the police must also know that society will forever support men and women in blue who are fighting crime and who put their bodies on the line and risk their lives for us to be safe. And dangerous criminals must know that the law is the law and the rule of law must be respected. If they shoot at police, the police in self-defense in the context of the law must respond accordingly. Must respond accordingly. We must not say to the police, do not respond to criminals when they are killing you. Killing one police officer is too much. One police officer is too much. Citizens, all of us here in this room, we respect police. When a cop stops you at night and all of that, you stop. And you respond to the call of the police officer. What do you want? And all of that. So who thinks that this country is a banana republic? They can point at the police officer on duty, heavily armed, and not even threaten, kill the police. The police must respond accordingly. And but at the same time, ensure that most of the time they surround these criminals and arrest them. And that's what is important. Solima Paila, the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party, in our report we mentioned that we have engaged the party and the alliance from the early stages of our engagement about the government, not even the government of national unity options. The Communist Party was for GNU with elements of minority government, or what you call supply confidence agreements. It has happened partly. The main issue that the General Secretary of the party seemed to be having is the DA in the GNU. Now the DA in the GNU is not of our choosing. It came out of the process of the democratic elections. Otherwise, if we had won elections overwhelmingly, we will not have DA in the GNU. We will not have DA in the GNU. And GNU can still continue and will continue without the DA. But if the DA choose to be part of the GNU and participate constructively in terms of stability of the country and commit to the statement of intent that we all agree to, they participate. And that is it. And what is that? Constitutional democracy, the rule of law, redress, economic growth, job creation for our people. That's what is important. So we have said that coalitions and government of national unity across the globe are formed by rival parties who don't agree even on ideology. Across the globe, they are not constituted by like-minded people. They are not. It doesn't mean if we had the people that quote-unquote characterize as close to us, there will be no rivalry there. There will be. And the subjective analysis from his part that if we had incorporated these people, the NDR is not under threat, it's incorrect. What is important is what do you do with your 40% in the GNU to defend and safeguard power. That's what we've done. That's what we've done. So the issue that is being raised about a sellout position must be accompanied by empirical evidence that the ANC in the GNU, because of the DA, it has succumbed to the following. And have actually thrown historical positions and its policies out of the window in favor of the DA. To date, we don't have that. We don't have that. We don't have that. So the over-exaggeration and accentuation that the DA and the DA being part of the GNU on the part of the ANC is a sellout position, it's incorrect. For instance, let me take an example. COSATU will be very opposed to the DA for reasons that are well known. Why do you think COSATU must not be frantic and be opposed to the DA given its posture when it comes to worker rights? Will the ANC agree with the DA on those issues? No. No. Have we been in this situation of the GNU before? We have been. What did we do when we were in the GNU at the time of the transition in this country? We have always maintained our power and also drive our policies very hard in the context of the GNU. No different. This time around, GNU is not brought about by a compromise through a negotiated settlement. Is brought about by an outcome of an election. So if you want to force us into a grand coalition with rivalries, it has got its own ramifications and risks. But we believe that the GNU risks outweigh the ramifications and risks of a grand coalition, where you lock yourself in partnership with somebody who can tell you tomorrow, I don't agree with everything. If you don't, then I'm out, and hold you at ransom. What will you do? There will be instability in government, like you have seen in local government. What coalitions and grand coalitions have produced in terms of your partners is something else. So at the end of the day, all of these things we've got to weigh up in terms of our understanding of these issues. The Communist Party have said that we maintain a critical eye on the GNU, which is acceptable to us, and so on. And we will continue to engage, and even together with the party and COSATU and others, deepen our strategic outlook of this government of national unity going forward. That's what we will do. It doesn't end with the ANC. We're going to the political council. All these views will be ventilated there. But here is the question. The GNU is not a melting pot. This is a fundamental strategic setback in terms of the outcome of the elections. That's what the NEC says. But this setback doesn't mean defeat. It means out of it, you can be in a position to advance your objectives. That is now your program of the National Democratic Revolution. And that's what the ANC is going to do. And that's how we understand the GNU is the most important strategic, tactical intervention. It can be on forever or it can go. Let me put it this way, right? Let's say tomorrow other parties and then they go away and all of that. It does not mean the collapse of the country. And if they go, it's their choice, they can go. But the GNU in itself, it's a tactical intervention in terms of addressing South Africa's and people's interest first, that we need to address, and national interest, to unite the country and get everybody to be involved. 10 political parties are part of this GNU. So we'll continue to engage. And there are flaws also to think that tactically, when you go with people you characterize, quote unquote, as close to you in terms of left, and those is EFF and Zuma party, you are safe. It is debatable. It's debatable. We can't be forced into that. We can't be forced into that. Let's debate it. And it belongs to the political council. It will be wrong for the ANC and our allies to communicate to the rest of South Africa that howling at each other is the right thing to do in 2024. When we engage, we meet together. All what it does is to show South Africa how disorganized we are. That's all what it says. It does not deepen. It does not deepen hegemony of the progressive forces. That the General Secretary of the Communist Party have told the whole world that ANC is a sellout party. That statement will remain with the people. Whatever we do in the GNU, whether we succeed or not, it will be referred to by opportunists and ideological pushovers and so on, that statement was basically correct, when it is not correct. We need to be told what is the sellout position, because we invited all parties, GNUs and coalition governments, in the deepest Oxford Dictionary definition, are actually constituted by political rival parties who necessarily don't agree ideologically. Go to Europe, everywhere else, close to home in Zimbabwe, Changirai and President Mugabe, may they too rest in peace, constituted a GNU which lasted for 5 years. And ZANU-PF came back and won election outright, and GNU was done away with. It happened next door. GNU, Government of National Unity, Prime Minister was Changirai in the government of President Mugabe. Here in South Africa, we don't have a prime minister, we don't have a deputy president, we just have parties with positions in government. That's it. And majority of these positions in government are occupied in respect of the outcome of the election by the largest party. It's not a favor that is made to the ANC. But the ANC have become respectful and true to the statement of intent that when parties come together, it's not for the convenience of it, are parties who genuinely want to move South Africa forward. We want employment to be done away with. We want to work together for redress, because when there is economic growth, there will be stability, there will be jobs created and all of that. And working with the private sector and so on, we will be able to move South Africa forward. And that is what is important for our country. Mawande, dialogue, elite arrangement, it is not. Dialogue is not an elite arrangement. Dialogue is about social contract. You are right, and would to say that why do you dialogue? What do you want to achieve? Now, dialogue is about enhancing and promoting social contract between government, business, and civil society. Not to talk about what problems we are confronted with that we don't know of and we cannot overcome. That is a program of government. Civil society leading and being part of this dialogue will say that our country has moved thus far. We believe that for us to move together, all of us, remember, the dialogue is irrespective of what you believe in politically and ideologically. It's about South Africa and what is in the interest of South Africa. It doesn't mean when we go to the dialogue, we don't know that the fault lines in terms of South Africa's politically, socio-economic situation, what are they? Poverty, unemployment, and so on. We know. But we need to bring this to life. Who are we? What we want to achieve? Because all of us, we might be looking at government and not coming to the party in many ways to participate in this South Africa we want to build. Everybody, wherever he is or she, they simply say that our problems start and end with government, I've got no contribution to make. All what must happen, government must provide for me. I've got no contribution to make. I must have a house even if I'm earning a good salary. I must have a house from government. I must get an RDP and all of that. There is a crime situation in my village, in my street. As a person in that street, there's nothing I can do about it. I've got to wait for the police and government to come and help me. As a society in our communities, we cannot get ourselves organized and work with the police to fight crime in our different areas. Look, for instance, the schools. Kids go to school, public schools, and what happens? They get attacked. Right in the neighborhood, there's a lot of people where this school is built and is threatened from criminality. We need patrollers, we need SGPs who are interconnected with that school to be able to blow the whistle and say, police, here in our school, our kids are threatened and we are an SGP. We have been calling you from in the morning to come and arrest these criminals. We have done citizen arrest. You are not responding. And for that reason, we and our school, we will march and then highlight a problem in our village, in our area, that as much as we come to the party and work with the police, they don't respond. That is called social contract, not leaving things to the government. It doesn't mean that in this dialogue, society is not alive to the fact that the burning platform in this country is crime. The question for the dialogue is, how do we build a social contract for everybody to come to the party? Government must lead for the government in terms of policy in the economy and what we need to do to ensure that we create jobs for our people. But the dialogue is about enhancing social contract and not just talk about what we know and what we probably don't know. We know what is happening. Dialogue is about bringing us together. When do we come together as South Africa and not even talk about our problems? Is when Springboks win in France and Bafana do well in Africa Cup of Nations and we start accusing each other. But these ones, when they win, we go to the airport. These ones, when they win, they are not coming to the airport. There's not dialogue there. It's an accusation. We have even forgotten our diversity that we have embraced and the concept of nation building in our country. We're just moving apart. And government cannot do that alone. Dialogue enhances that. It's not an elite thing. You may not understand it. You think of it as a conference. That it's like an ANC conference they are trying to call. You are reducing it. It's not that. It's about somebody who have lost faith in this country and who is out there and influential but want to make a contribution to come to the fore and say, yes, these are the fault lines, but I commit to work for my country and enhance our South Africanness. But over and above that, to talk about how do we then build this great nation of ours. Others will politicize it, bring ideology into it, and so on. We as the ANC, we are clear. What Mbeki, as our former president, conceptualized, supported by our president, and by today, many foundations in our country, abafundisi, big churches in our country and all of that have embraced this idea of a national dialogue. It's no longer an idea of two people, it's an idea of South Africa's people. And it's not an idea of the ANC. The ANC is simply embracing it as part and parcel of the broader civil society in South Africa. And we support it in that context. So don't sell it as an ANC idea, because you'll miss the point. ANC, when it wants to reflect on the past 30 years, it calls its own policy conference. and its own conference and the National General Council who are going to. Once you now start to vulgarize the national dialogue as an ANC conference of elite and all of that, iphume a window, masiyeke. Ni moshile and all of it's not about that. It's bigger than that. Actually, you should be fighting for it not to become an ANC conference. You should be fighting to be in it, the national dialogue, and to shape its content, to do all these things that I'm talking about. In that way, we are bringing everybody along in terms of the dialogue. So that's how we understand it. MK Party, we are not promoting what is not ours. They've stolen stuff from us. If somebody steals your shoes and then you tell the police, come this direction, they are going to say, Vulikala. You go to the police station. Will it be a waste of time when you claim what is rightfully yours? It's not. I might be oversimplifying it. They've taken Umkhonto weSizwe, our symbols, and they go with them. And we can't allow that. When Jacob Zuma speaks about that party of his, he does not refer to his own history. He talks about the history of liberation struggle and of Umkhonto weSizwe. And that Umkhonto weSizwe is right at the center of our liberation struggle in the ANC. What will we say to generations to come that we allowed one former president to just steal? We will chase this thing up until the apex court. We will. There will be no retreat on that. Rest assured. Because that rightfully belongs to the ANC. Zuma has got a name in society for himself. At least he's got support now. Why is he not having a party called it Zuma Maibuye? Something like that. I mean, why is he taking our stuff? I mean, he's got a name for himself. He can prove at least support. Unlike people who speak from outside, they've never tested their support. He's got support. Makabene party ZM, Zuma Maibuye party. That will be fine. The ANC will never go there. Will never go there. You call it Umkhonto weSizwe. That is our heritage. We will fight for it and then bring it home. And that's what we are doing. 60-40 rule. We say before and after that where and I want to explain it to you, where and it's not train smash, the NEC agreed on this unanimously on this particular matter that we must go back to 60-40. It happened sometime in Gauteng. So we say that where a premier is a man, the legislatures must appoint presiding officers who are women. They've done that. So we did not include in that 60-40. So when we got to the NEC, comrades said, no, this 60-40, because executives as they stand now is 50-50, where men are premiers. So they said, let it be 60-40, even. It must not, 60-40 must not be replaced by the fact that you appoint more women as presiding officers. So we have agreed on that. We have agreed on that. So this is not the fault of the comrades in the provinces. That's how they understood the communique, which the SG communicated in the special meeting in Cape Town and then communicated with the provinces to implement. So the NEC have said no to that. So they must, they don't have to review. They will simply implement 60-40 in their respective provinces as soon as possible. And that is what is going to happen. July unrest. We give you an analysis in our statement, which is basically a brief summary. It's a summary. Why we got to the point where we are. We did not get to 40% because we got into an election on the 29th. It's an accumulation. Load shedding. COVID in terms of the economy, that battered the economy, pushed a whole lot of people out, and then stagnant economy that doesn't grow, and then a July unrest, which crippled the economy billions and billions of rands. You saw industry spent down. What happened? So an accumulation of all those factors have led us to this. We then attach to that also subjective. We say our organizational problems and challenges, lack of renewal of the ANC. There is a renewal, but it is moving to others at a snail pace. If it is moving, it is not felt. So how do we deepen this renewal? That the ANC is a party that is renewing itself, and that it is felt by everybody that that party is something else. Digitally and otherwise, they are advanced. Membership, they are on point. It's a professional party. It is run professionally. It is a party that cares for its people. Branches are at the center of things. They don't only exist for positions where they are forever there. They are not cyclical. They don't come into action only when there is a conference, when there is an election. The branches of the ANC breathe life to society. That is what the renewal requires of us. So we say not just unrest as something that have arisen. We reflect on the accumulative effect of this that have led us to where we are. Even when you passed 100 days without load shedding, people still said, you are lying. This load shedding is coming immediately after the election. This was for election. That tells you what has happened. When you look at the election statistically, you see where the numbers of the ANC went, to the Zuma party. But equally, the numbers of the ANC have gone to the lack of voter turnout in its base. People did not come out in numbers to defend the ANC and in their numbers. So, whereas there were people who came out and voted for Zuma, the numbers went down in our traditional base in terms of support. Samkele, consequence management that underperformed provinces should be punished. We don't work like that. We don't come together and say provinces, because there's been underperformance, the solution is disbandment. This is what we're going to do, and this is what we're doing. The ANC going into this election, it was very clear that we have weak structures. And there are various reasons why the organization is weak on the ground. We started to see that with the selection process. When most of the branches, when we started to do things differently, they were responding differently. You see, when you say you've got members, among those members it includes ghosts, because you're rushing a conference. When you say you've got a BGM, that BGM never said. Somebody sat with their friends and lied that more than 100 people met in my branch and elected me and Godlimpi to be delegates. We've got the legitimate branch. It's a lie. There's no organization. A branch meets and there is no gatekeeping. We've been talking this thing. I'm a member of the ANC. I've never been informed that there is a BGM. Only one side knows. And then you claim that the people who have elected from this branch are really, really legit delegates, and the branch is done. And then there are signatures there. Now, we don't have machines that can prove signatures are right or people did not turn up. Members complain. In my branch, a branch never met. Now, where is the reflection of that? Because if a branch is meeting every day and it does its job, it knows what it is doing, it will not lead to political obliteration of the ANC on the ground. Because that branch will tell you that So many people have left the ANC and they've gone to the other side. And the BC is no longer meeting. And then you're going to lose here because BGMs are not sitting. As leaders, you are happy because you go to the National Executive Committee and produce a report and say about that report, the organization is alive, we are ready to convene a conference. A conference is a conference of friends. Fine and good, it's 4,000 people. But where do they come from? So, what we are going to do in terms of the state of organization is to look into that. We are now going to present a state of organization of the ANC, which we have been mandated in December. But before that, we are then going to define what preliminarily is the state of the ANC and what is it that we need to do. It will be enhanced by the engagement with the structures on the ground. Now, when I get to Johannesburg as the SG, I get here and I say I want to see branches, and branches must speak for themselves. That's what is going to happen, countrywide. And then on the basis of this work, it will be accompanied by organizational renewal work of the ANC, so that these things that I talk about are not happening. We rather live with 10 people than be told that we are 100 when we are actually 10. And then we tell ourselves that we are a mass-based party. That party does not exist on the ground. There is no relationship between a ward councillor and the BC of the ANC. And then when you do election work, you start to see these things on the ground, that we are visitors among these people. People opened their houses and they welcomed us there, and we were there. And then we went into their houses, and then you realize as you talk to them, and then fewer houses begin to tell you, no, Godlipi was here, we know him, is our child. He's here, he's our councillor, we know. But majority of these houses are telling you a story that this councillor we elected, it's only now that we see them. So you then need to also put measures in place to monitor the work of councillors. How do they work with the BC? The BC of the ANC and the general membership in that local area, how does it work and conduct itself? So when you come by disbanding, you are not addressing the problem of the state of organization. You are just addressing the surface. You are going to disband people and bring others who are different from them, and then put them there because you've got the power to appoint people. And then you are not addressing the problem. You've got a wound, and then you don't cleanse the wound. And then you just put plaster and so on, and then you say you have healed. And then you ask yourself over the years, hey, this thing is not healing. And then they tell you that you must come for an operation because you never cleanse the wound, and the septic thing has also expanded in your body and become a different animal. So we've got to address the challenges that we've got and sort things out. Why Gauteng? Gauteng, it's a myth, Samuel. It's a myth that Gauteng has a different position from national. Let me repeat again. It's a myth, actually. We adopted a framework to engage with everybody throughout the country. Gauteng was affected because we did not win outright majority. Gauteng goes through the mandate of national to engage with everybody, including the DA. The reason Panyaza was elected to become the mayor unopposed is because all political parties in the legislature agreed that the premier will come from the ANC, the speaker will come from the ANC, the deputy speaker from the DA. That was done. Now we moved to the second phase. The deputy speaker here in Gauteng was DA before they withdrew. Remember, when we discussed with the DA, they said to us, We reserve the right to go back to the benches if we don't agree with you. And we eventually agreed with them on GNU. They said no to us, we are for multi-party, but we were looking for a grand coalition. We said we don't want a grand coalition. We rejected the grand coalition. For the DA, we rejected the grand coalition. For the EFF, we rejected, I don't know what Zuma wanted till today. So I can't talk about him. All what I know is that he wanted something, I don't know what is that. Up until he pronounced it what he wanted in the context of 29th outcome of the election, he's yet to explain that. The IFP also moved in that particular direction of the grand coalition. So we said we don't want grand coalition, we engage. We said we want a GNU, Government of National Unity, of all political parties participating in that. We did not agree. We went back and forth and so on. We talked about all the models, but we then agreed on that. So we said provinces will negotiate on their own. And that is what ensued with Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. So there was never a position that says, in our province, Gauteng, we will not work with the DA. The negotiations with the DA collapsed when we could not agree on the GNU. Helen Zille came with these people, and I came with the ANC. We negotiated. We left our people, negotiating team. Helen Zille said, I'm not going out because in the DA, everything is around me. And then they sat there, and then they negotiated. They could not agree. The DA, in terms of the modalities of cabinet, they wanted 5-5 between the ANC and them, and then 2 from these 5 must go to the opposition. That is Zille's definition of proportionality. We said, no, we don't agree with that. It's not Gauteng. I took that as the leader of the negotiating team to the officials of the ANC. I reported. And then Gauteng was there when we reported back. We got a mandate that we must move ahead. But even the option of the minority government that we've got, it is not without its fragility. We went into it like we went into GNU. And it does not mean that if we are confronted with those threats and challenges and risks, we can't mitigate or find our way around them. Every option have got its own challenges. Now, the myth and the overemphasis that Gauteng rejected the DA is not true. It's not true. It's not true. It's a perception that has been entrenched. I was with Panyaza in this platform. I explained the same thing. He was wearing Krisani t-shirt, which now has been explained what it means. I don't know what it means up until today, but I know that Krisani was our commander. And so I just wanted to understand where was the message going. Maybe such messages could be entrenching that members of the ANC across and everywhere else, when we talk DA and the GNU, they did not settle well with them. That's why we had to go and convene extended meetings to engage with them. And we did that. We are a big party. You don't think of ANC members as agreeing with something that they don't understand. As we get down to them and explain to them the GNU, how it functions, what is going to happen, they understood. And it doesn't end with the extended meetings. It's going to go down and down to the structures explained to comrades, because there are others who still distort it with insurrectionary phrase-mongering. Sell out. This leadership is selling us out to the DA. No substance to it. And they work with the DA and all of that. And then they don't say, who should you work with? And then if they say we must work with Zuma, We don't know what Zuma stands for. And then if they say what we must work with EFF, we know those flip-floppers, where they actually stand. Where do they actually stand? Because today they will be with the DA, tomorrow they will be with something else. Now, they want to become astute ideological proponents of what is progressive through their leader. You know, they are very inconsistent. They cannot be trusted. They change overnight. And they run governments on the basis of threats. We want stability for this country. We don't want anarchy. Over and above everything else, we want stability. We don't want people, when they come into this country, they see something that they don't know what it is. That is the interest of the ANC. The interest of the ANC are for this country first. We will never run down South Africa simply because we believe in self-interest. And even if it can lead to running this economy and this country down to become something else, we will not agree to that. We can't be told by a party that have said that the primary objective of this election is to get rid of the ANC, including working with the DA. Now, when we talk to the DA, it is, with the ANC. They say, no, we don't want you combined. We want you, ANC, to come with us so that you die in our hands. That's what they say. But you are here. You are everywhere. You are in social media. You know what EFF have said and what they stand for. So what is this newfound love and definition that the ANC can work with them? We wanted them here in the port with everybody in the GNU. We wanted them here in the port. Let them come and argue with us that Floyd must become Minister of Finance. Maybe we could have given to him. We don't know. But they didn't want to come to the port. They wanted their own arrangement. They wanted a marriage. We didn't want. We didn't want the marriage of the EFF, DA, Zuma, or anybody. We wanted a get-together of everyone. Simply explained, that is what we wanted to do. So Gauteng disabused this myth that Gauteng stood alone, it had a position on its own. That position where they are now, in terms of what Panyaza is leading and the collective, it's a position of the ANC. National and provincial. And I'm repeating it, it's a position of the ANC. The president knows about it. The entire officials knows about it. The National Executive Committee knows about it. As we briefed them the past weekend. No dissent on it. There's nobody who said in the NEC, no, SG, that is not true. Tina, we don't want DA. GNU, as much as there were reservations about it, was announced as a position of the ANC after a National Executive Committee meeting by its president. Not even by the SG, by the president, in the presence of the NEC. We ran with it in the context of negotiations and engaged with political parties who have come to appreciate it and embrace it. And they are not stepchildren in this GNU. It doesn't mean that they are going to change their identity and become something else. Helen Zille can say everything you want to say every day. I've got no responsibility to be running after her. My job and the job of the ANC is to live up to the expectation of the people in terms of our commitments to the election and what we said we'll do in terms of our manifesto, not to run after the DA or anybody who's in the GNU and all of that. It's not our job. Our task is to know that the GNU will be contested and others will want to claim it to be in their favor. For instance, as I conclude on the GNU, people arrive in government for 2 weeks. Then they say, no, hey, we are moving with the speed of a lightning, of a Gautrain, lightning, for budgets that they have not shaped, APPs that they have not endorsed. But if you don't know how government works, you'll believe that the DA minister is a machine. He just arrived there and did his thing. But we love ministers who serve the people, irrespective of what party they belong to. If a minister who comes from a particular political party is doing his job, he will get our support. And society will be behind that minister. If a minister who comes from the ANC is sleeping on the job, the ANC will be exposed. That nifake abantu apha kodwa ayingobantu. Why do you cry foul when a particular minister is doing his job, is active? We can't. We want a government that is capable and that is working. And that is what the ANC will support. City of Joburg, I'm not going to comment on that. We are working on coalitions. We are not going to convene a meeting, News 24. We're not. We're meeting every day. We met with all provinces. We know that we have to talk up. We're talking about Joburg. And Joburg is nearing a conclusion. And then I will brief the officials on Monday on Joburg, and then they will give us a green light to proceed on Tuesday in Joburg. We're talking with all parties. Our province here and our region in Johannesburg are working under the full support of National. The coalition's task team report to the Secretary General and here at Luthuli House, headed by Makura. We have met with all provinces. Free State, they've got their proposals. And then KwaZulu-Natal, they are coming here on Monday in our officials meeting. So we'll be able, when the time arrives, to brief you about that. But our province is leading those, and we are working with them. We are not visiting provinces. We have met all of them. We are discussing a coalition. State of organization, I've answered that question. I think the armored vehicle now is a tired story. Eh? You know I don't own an armored vehicle. Exactly. So I told these people that I don't, and it became an issue because they wanted to make it an issue. You know that I don't. And that vehicle was given to me for security purposes, which I explained to a journalist, because if I give you the security detail where I go, then it compromises my security and all of that. So that matter has been actually addressed, because that I don't do. Ntebu have answered the issue of the national dialogue. The wayward behavior, some of these things have been attended to. Abantu badla manqina and all of that. Where we must agree with you, and this also has got an impact on our image, for us to be seen to be acting, we don't have to wait 20 days. When I arrived here, there was a mayor in the Free State who insulted somebody. You know why that story died? It's because immediately I acted on that mayor, together with the province. How can a mayor of the ANC just get into the houses of people abafake impama? And then you think that thing will just die down? Public representative, you are public representative. Dipsuke nje divele up and dingu SG ndishushu nje. Hey, kunjani madoda? It doesn't work like that. It means we've got to conduct ourselves in a particular way. And when we said, comrade, you cannot do that. You serve these people here. Even if they are wrong, you are their servant. Others, you may think that society will defend you. Good eye. Umeya bamqalile was thulela lo meya. Wahamba bamthuka wahamba. You can't get into people's houses ubethazini and then ubafose kadi impama mu. You are their mayor. The following day you want those people to vote for you. You can't. I agree with you, Ntebu. Incidents of ill-discipline and waywardness, where people go out of their way and forget the title, what the president was talking about when he closed the Lukhut, and forget that I'm a councillor, I'm a public representative, I'm whatever. When I am walking down the streets and something happens to me, even if I've never been on TV, but if they discover They will expect a different behavior from me. And the ANC keeps quiet about that. You do nothing about it. Comrade, this thing is not done. Steps are taken. Renewal will become a pipe dream. And that people will do as they wish. That is why 4 years back, you still remind me about this thing. Because probably in our books, ANC did nothing about it. It became business as usual. Did that comrade go to integrity? What did Integrity Commission say? What must happen to that comrade's behavior? We created this Integrity Commission in our renewal agenda because if I were to deal with him or any other person who's close to me or seen to be close, I will be choosy. The integrity is constituted by older people who have got no interest any longer in leading but the interest of the ANC, who examine case by case and decide that this comrade has misbehaved there. SG, our report says that he must step aside, or he must undertake the following things to self-correct. The Integrity Commission is for that, is to help us, not to be punitive. Is to help us with that, because we have realized that sometimes the leadership itself get paralyzed to intervene and take decisions, because every night he has misbehaved there, so you don't deal with that party. But the incident doesn't disappear. It stays in the records on Google and everywhere else. And the ANC will be judged on that. But if the ANC act on waywardness, some of the things we don't know about them, you are just awakened by a journalist and say that, hey, or you see a story on social media circulating, you ask, who's this? What action has been taken? Because today you can't do anything. People at their own have got their own capacity to record you when you do wrong things. So we agree with you, Ntebu, that the wayward behavior, the ANC must not be seen, it must act where there is such, because we've got the checks and balances in the party to refer people to, so that they can get proper counseling and also get proper direction. And also, counseling means you will be subjected to a program of revival. If there's anything like that, to ensure that comrades are in line and they don't get out of line. The economy, I don't know what is 1994 fundamentals. We move from gear, we're talking inclusive growth. And how the economy then respond to measures we put in place, it depends on what you do as that economy. Now our emphasis is on industrialization. And then as we implement this, we believe that there will be a strong social compact with business. For instance, here in South Africa, we know that where big industries were supposed to invest in our economy, they have sort of disinvested and left and leave us with a big gap of unemployment and undermining possibilities of creating jobs. So our economy must respond to that. We must have not a dialogue, a compact with business. You will not take a smelter here and build it in another country and leave South Africa with 800 jobs in the economy, which is that possibility, and go elsewhere. So if you invest here, we've got an agreement, and then we've got terms that enable your business to flourish. Why are you not staying here? If somebody tells you that we've got worth more than $1 trillion investment, but we're holding back because we don't trust government, what is it that you don't trust in this government to create jobs? And those are the things that we need to actually address and accelerate going forward. So I think the spokesperson here and the team in government have got that mammoth of task to address going forward. Reuters, when we talk about zero rating basic foodstuffs and all of that is what we want government to do. Already government is going to a Lekgotla, another meeting of MTDBPS to address this part. That one is not even policy, it's a program. They've got to come out of that, and it will be reflected also in the policy budget statement of the Minister of Finance. But the economic cluster as well must be reflected in their program of action. What are we going to do to implement this? It's our program of action. Everybody, at least in the GNU, from what I've read, agrees with its manifesto program of the ANC that on the essentials will, of course, all the basic foodstuffs in our country are zero rated, but we talk about the essentials, which is what our ministers in government must actually address going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, colleagues.